I've done it, ladies and gentlemen. I have furnished this house. I came up with 12 chiseled furniture ideas that I thought I would share with y'all. And so here we are. It's a bit of a change of mood. I changed the daytime to dusk. And the house looks a little different. The first furniture idea is this little arch thing that you can put lights on. I decided to go for oil lamps instead of the, typical lantern, because the lantern is very bright, which for the purposes of vanilla vintage story is kind of necessary to prevent mob spawning. So this is what it would look like with natural lighting, but it's too bright in my opinion. So I decided to go for an oil lamp instead, which is a lot cozier of lighting. Now, this little thing you'll notice is kind of weird, because when I actually try and place something against it, it says it requires a solid face to attach to. That's because these are like half walls and you can't actually attach them there. Now, oil lamps, you can. I assume because there's like a hitbox here that matches up with the oil lamp, which I actually didn't know about. But when I was initially doing this, a easy way to make these, because with lanterns it's a bit trickier because the hitbox is like kind of weird. You could probably still do it, but the easiest way I've found to make these is to just put down your whole block and then just chisel out. Oops. Chisel out the area where it will go. And I believe... Oh no, it still does. Okay. It's a little weird. You kind of have to play with it. But that is furniture idea number 1. These little light things that actually work very well with the kind of half block dimensions of this house style. Makes placing things a little weird. I had a lot of people tell me or mention that with these walls it becomes very difficult to, furnish and make things look nice because it's not a smooth face, right? And you'll see some of that as we get inside. But I did my best to work around it. So, here we are. This is the living area. First things first, furniture idea number 2 are these chairs. I based these off of a, I think 14th century X chair design, where they like weave fibers between, to make an X pattern on the chair. So that's what I kind of went with there. And you'll notice it's actually 2 blocks, and that's to make the chair a little taller. And the really cool thing about these chairs is that you can sit in them. The hitboxes are a little funky. You kind of have to like get to the very edge and then sit on it to get it to look right. But yeah, I'm quite proud of these chairs. They're a little like stumpy looking as averted to something a little smaller that would look more like a chair. But I guess the serifs are big fellows, so you need big chairs. All right, furniture idea number 2 are these dining tables. This is a 2-piece piece of furniture, and as you can see, I once again used the basic 2x2 chiseling brush to cut this out, and it's not the most detailed chiseling work, but I kind of like working in more general, I guess 16x16 sort of pixel things. I did the same for the chairs. For the most part, I kind of broke the rules with the little bar there, but in general, I like to work with bigger brushes. That would be my biggest tip for chiseling in general, is to take a block, your source block, and then cut away at it with the bigger brushes until you get a general shape, and then hone it down from there into something finer. Obviously, I could take this table with the 1 pixel brush and get very fancy with it, cut all these out to make it a bit more X-shaped, so it looks a little more in-depth, right? And I could totally do that, and that's totally valid, and I probably would if I was playing this in survival. but for the sake of concept, it's a lot easier to work in bigger brushes because it takes significantly less time to build stuff that way. So the main features of this table, obviously the X pattern. That is something else I referenced from a reenactment historical furniture page, or website. But I'm really proud of this tablecloth here. I like how it kind of hangs over the sides. There don't seem to be very many carpet options in Vintage Story. There's a few, and you'll see some of them upstairs. But carpet and rug, there's really just not a ton of options. But chiseling makes it very, very powerful. Something else to note about all these pieces of furniture around here is primarily I used the debarked oak log, which can make the sides look a little funky, like on this writing desk. But I love that texture right there. The side textures look so nice. And a lot of these pieces of furniture, like these tables, you can't really tell that it was a log just at like a basic glance. It kind of gives it a level of detail just from the texture itself that I quite like. Nice thing about this table is you can set food and dishes and plates on it, pots, what have you. That's a little thing about chiseling is as long as you have this top pixel surface, you can place anything on it, which is nice. I actually designed this table first like this, which was the original X, I don't even know the term, X table design, folding table, which looks really, really cool because I shaved off the top layer, right? So it gives it a nice level of depth compared to the actual room, but you can't place anything on that, which is kind of unfortunate. I get it for the sake of like hitboxes and everything, but unfortunately that is how it is. So that was what? Oil lamps 1, chair 2, dining table 3. This matching stand was idea number 4. So moving on to furniture idea number 5 is this fireplace. It's a little unfinished, as you could tell. There's a beam in the way and the bottom is grass. I kind of forgot about that when I was doing all this chiseling, so in an actual playthrough, I would go through and make that look a lot nicer. But the general gist that I really like about this furnace, this isn't Minecraft, the fireplace, although it does look kind of like a furnace. Obviously, it's a full block in the center where you can fit your fire pit. This is a cool little feature, creative mode. You can just block click. Oh, there it is. Oh, the lighting was bugged. But you can block click lit fireplaces to get permanently lit ones, which is kind of cool for building. Obviously, it features more 2x2 basic chiseling work. The key features to note are these front pieces are their own chiseled blocks that would be really, really annoying to disassemble and copy and do all of that. I heavily suggest if you're working in chiseling like this where it gets very, very wonky, just take your chisel, add your source block as a material here, and just chisel it on as you would, as if the chisels were their own blocks, you know? That's the way that I've found is easiest for this kind of chiseling. Obviously, if I was replicating these houses in survival, I would probably want copy blocks, but it just makes things so much easier. And that's really the key to furnishing a place like this, where the walls are these weird half blocks with janky beams attached to them. Really just working at the chisel layer is going to be your best friend for that. And I just destroyed the fireplace. Hang on. Oh no. Wait. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Chiseling can be funky. Alright, so that is idea number 5. Idea number 6, looking above the furnace, the glaring, glorious sight in this room is this hanging sword on display. This is the one chisel piece that I'm the most proud of because I'm a huge sword nerd. I do like historical European martial arts, that kind of thing, fencing, all that. This is my jam. That's the one thing that I really kind of don't like about Vintage Story is the only melee sword weapon in vanilla is the falx. which is a cool kind of historical weapon that makes sense for like the lore purposes. But come on, man, just give me an arming sword. I know there were some in like the ruined items, that kind of thing. And obviously there's like overhaul, combat overhaul that adds all that, which I like to play with, but this is neat. This is obviously a weird hybrid of the floor above it and chiseling, which is kind of funky. And once again, I'm going to say this over and over and over. If you're working in sizes like this, you're gonna have to just build everything with chisels. That's how I did it here, and it turned out quite nice. Idea number 6. This is something else that I'm really quite proud of, is this writing desk. It's kind of a cool sort of L desk type shape thing. I think the log texture is a little too apparent on the sides. Not fond of that, but I love the side texture. But the real kicker, look at this. These are chiseled candles and an ink pot. That one I'm really, really happy that I came up with. It's all just one singular block, right? Like that. So that's how you do it. You just place down a block and then chisel down to this. I think this is, yeah, this is sandstone, sand, and I think, yeah, shale rock and shale cobblestone to make the ink pot. But it really, really adds a lovely level of depth to the room, and when mixed with the decoration items that exist in the game, like this open large book, that would be kind of annoying to chisel. But you can mix and blend things, and they fit so nicely in this game. Obviously next to it we got the scroll rack, but that's not a chisel thing. What is this? Idea number 7? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so it turns out my numbers are all off. This is actually idea number 7, if you're even keeping track. The next furniture idea, I promise there's 12 in total. This is the sort of progenitor idea to this L desk. This is a sort of kitchen bar table thing, where I set, bowls, pots, jugs, crocks, little oil lamp. Really just a nice way to make this tiny little space something actually usable, which was kind of a hassle. Nice little tip for that, taking your clay ovens, putting them in the wall, and then just putting some clay stone in there. Really easy way to clear out some of the space in your room. I do that a lot in Minecraft, where I'll stick furnaces. Sometimes I'll put, 3 furnaces in the floor and, get a whole furnace array for mass production. But in Vintage Story, it's a lot simpler. So that's the kitchen. Nothing too fancy. I could have made like some chiseled knives or forks or something like that, but for the sake of time, I stuck with this. Our next chisel idea is a bit odd. It's this hanging herb rack, was the concept that I originally came up with. It would probably look a lot better if I went in and single pixel chiseled it to make it a little more like plants, as averted to kind of a chunky piece of vomit is what it looks like. But here's a gripe. Okay, you ready? Here's a hot take. Here's a gripe that I have with Vintage Story. The colors are all so drab. I know it's a horror game. I know it's like, evil, apocalyptic, but for a game inspired by, I believe in the lore, the world was in like the 14th century when the fucking, sorry if that's spoilers or something. I'll bleep that if it is. But for something based on the Middle Ages, it's very, very gruely and grimy. The only real break to that is obviously you have ceramic, and plants can be quite bright. But for whole blocks that are actually chiselable, if you look in the creative inventory, like all the sand, all the dirt, all the stone, all the wood, everything is just like so gross. Which it looks really nice, like in the context of the entire game, where it's like, a horror game. I understand why they went for kind of the gritty realism But the Middle Ages were quite bright. Everybody loved color. They were very, very vibrant back in the day. And I feel like, obviously it doesn't fit the tone of the game, but having options for that where you could, you know, put like a bright green wool. Did I just say bright green? A bright green wool to, you know, splash some color into your actual like building work. That's kind of the main reason this whole building is made of pine. Because if you look at the other wood colors, like maple looks like vomit. Oak looks kind of peachy like flesh. That's the other one that I kind of like working with. Obviously there's some, you know, brighter ones like redwood, larch. You do have options. Purple heart. It's not as drab as I'm initially claimed. But I mean, look at all the others. Like kapuk. I don't know. They're all very natural colors. I do appreciate that about Vintage Story. But pine is the one log that just really shines, in my opinion. But this is peak Vintage Story color palette right here. It just looks like someone took a shit on the floor. No offense to the devs and all that, obviously, and like the art direction. I still love the game, but very long-winded tangent. These look like puke, but they're supposed to be drying herb racks. Maybe it's not that good of a furniture idea, but the idea is there, where you have a sort of, again, pine log rack, and then you mix in the little herbs to make it look kind of nice. But trust me, it gets worse. I believe our next chiseling idea is out here in the shed. Once again, I forgot to put a floor on here. Not me completely forgetting. Here's our next idea. This, either to your eyes, looks like a pot of berries or tomatoes or puke. It's what it looks like to me. It looks like someone just vomited in this bucket that's hanging down. It's supposed to be like a hanging pot that looks like a plant, you know, hanging planterns. Planterns, yes, that is a word. I do like the hanging aspect with like the tiny, I think that's once again shale, to put a little string on there. Maybe those logs would look better just as a straight line, but the concept is there. A hanging pot for herbs and for gardens. I think that'd be cool. I really wish they'd do one of those for these planters they just added to the game. They're really cool. This is probably one of my new favorite blocks in the game because it lets you finally add like cool stuff. Actual plants. But this is the sort of crackhead planter that I came up with. Once again, maybe if I went in with the single chisel, sort of, I don't know, flesh these out to make them look more like berries, it could look nice, or nicer, I guess. Maybe there's something to it. Play with it as you will, but that's the concept, that's the idea. The next idea is kind of a cop-out, I'm not gonna lie. It's this. This is a tiny little candle shelf. The reason I put that there is because this space was just kind of empty looking. And that's something especially hard when you're working with these weird half-chiseled vertical slab blocks, is when you're trying to decorate that. Obviously, I can't lean tools against this. I can't hang tool racks from this. Like, there's not a whole lot I can do with that. So this is more of just a point on principle that when you're working with walls like this, you have to do a lot of chiseling to kind of make things flavorful, if you could even call it that. But the idea is there and the principle is there. Moving on. I believe our final furniture idea here, moving upstairs, this is just kind of a nice little house tour here. This is just the same writing desk. That's something really nice that people pointed out and I discovered when furnishing these rooms, is a lot of the times you can take chiseled furniture, put it somewhere else, put something else on it, and it becomes a whole new piece of furniture, which is really cool. This is just like a skull mushroom kind of display desk. Here's a little trick I found. For these paintings, when you have these beams here, right, you can't actually place paintings there. So the best way I've found to put paintings up when you have a room like this is to break the beam, place the painting, and then place the beams. Oh, I missed it here, but place the beams around the painting. So now it kind of frames it and it looks really nice. That's just a little workaround I figured out. This second floor is a little more furnished than last time you saw it. There's a lot more beams. I'm not really sure if I went overboard on these. Maybe I did. And it looks like a couple of them are a little off on their actual degrees. I didn't notice that until just now, but the principle is there. I say that a lot. Mistakes, yes. Here's our final furniture design. It is this wardrobe. It's not totally based on anything historical. I was trying to go for, there are historical wardrobes of that kind of shape that have a lot more intricate carving work and detailing work that I could put in on this. But I kind of ran out of time when I was doing this. It's already been like a week since I first built this house. So, yeah, this is just a sort of bare bones one that you can replicate in your own worlds. Nice little features here. You just go around the edge, chip those out. When you're doing just plain wood, these creases and crevices can look kind of like they blend in, especially if you step back. It just looks like a log. So the way I found around that was just to inlay another color, which just helps it be a little more identifiable. I'm not sure what exact color would look best. Maybe another wood tone that's just a little darker would work there, but that's the principle. A little fun fact, trivia, game show answer about this wardrobe. You can probably tell just by looking at it, but it's uneven. The doors are. That's because this beam was in the way and I didn't tear it down to fix it. And I was in such a rush to get this upper level furnished that I just said fuck it and just made it as is, which I mean, if you squint and try not to look too hard, it looks fine. But when you enter the bedroom, this is quite nice, by the way, it's very apparent that the door is completely uneven. Makes it look almost cartoony, which is kind of funny, but that's the idea. Once again, I'm gonna say this a lot in all of my videos. It's about the principle. It's just take the idea and fix it, because you'll have more time than me. Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, those are all the chiseling, furnishing ideas. This is not technically one, but this was a little weird. If you look outside. This was a weird, like, sectioned off area of the house that I didn't really know what to do with. By the way, this is the furnace from the outside, or the fireplace from the outside. I didn't put a chimney because it would have been a pain in the ass, and also, I don't think chimneys were really prevalent in the Middle Ages that I know of. I know they were kind of invented somewhere in there in the Renaissance, but as far as I know, they primarily would put fires in the center of the floor, like a little inlaid thing, and then have space on the roof for the smoke to go out. I didn't think of that, and I thought the fireplace looked cooler, so I just got a little anachronistic with it. But that little indent in the room is a closet with your mom in it. Yeah, you could store some Crocs here, maybe put a chest or something. Obviously your golden hoe. And yeah. This is a little feature too, not a full-on feature, but putting these plaques as a headboard can look nice, especially if you match it with the metal color of your lanterns and whatnot. It's quite nice. And yeah, that should be it. That is our interior pretty much done here. Hopefully these are helpful to you if you're furnishing a house in your own world, and yeah. Stay tuned. I plan on making more videos like this. Subscribe if you want to see more. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.